So, what do you do if you happen to be born in an extremely poor family? The social atmosphere around you is absolutely disappointing. Your family lives hand to mouth and it's dependent on agriculture. Unfortunately, there is no rain, there is no water to support agriculture, yet you have to survive. Seems like an extremely difficult situation, isn't it? Not if you happen to be William Kamkwamba. This is the story of William. The movie is called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Let's understand what is this story about. Why should you watch this movie, especially if you haven't seen it so far? But before we talk about the story, let's understand who are the chief architects who made this movie possible. So on your screen, you happen to see on the extreme left the actual William Kamkwamba, who also wrote a book that ultimately inspired this movie. But as they say, the man who holds the string to the entire movie is the director. So right next to William Kamkwamba, you see Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is the director of this movie and also happens to play an extremely important role in the movie. He actually plays the role of the father in the movie, William's father, and he has done a superb job. For those of you who don't know who Chiwetel Ejiofor is, you must go and watch 12 Years a Slave, which won an Oscar, and you will understand the class of the man in this screen. And to the left of Chiwetel Ejiofor, you also have Aisa Maiga, who plays the role of William's mother, and you have Maxwell Simba, who actually plays the role of the protagonist, which is William Kamkwamba. So let's understand what is this movie about. Now, this movie is one of those rare pieces of cinematic gems which can be visited and revisited over and over again. So if you haven't seen even once, you have a great opportunity to see it on Netflix or perhaps wherever you can grab this movie. So the story revolves around a young William who is born in the Malawi tribe, and he hails from a very, very poor family, as you can see from the frame. He lives with his father, his mother, his sister, and in spite of all the challenges that he has in his life, he hasn't lost curiosity. He is a genuine problem solver. And he actually goes on to build a wind turbine which will help his village save itself from famine. So how does he does that is the entire story that you see in this movie. But where does William, the boy, get this idea from? It actually springs from the fact that he comes from a very poor family. There is nothing on the table for him to eat. He and his family live hand to mouth. There is no support from the government, and even the socio-economic atmosphere is absolutely disappointing. And as they say, need is the mother of invention, and invention is what he does. But the spark of invention actually comes to William when he happens to set his eyes on a book called Using Energy in his school's library. So when he reads this book called Using Energy, William says, well, my village doesn't have electricity and therefore there is no water supply as well. How about me trying to find a wind turbine? Can I do something about it? And he actually does. And that is the beauty of this entire movie, is that one spark of imagination leads to a giant invention that ultimately saves not only William's life, not only saves his family's life, but the entire village is saved by William's invention. So this is the book that actually increased curiosity and triggered fascination in young William's mind that led to this wonderful journey that he went on to achieve something bigger. So when he actually reads the book, William says, well, everyone is talking about no water, no food, no electricity. But what if I develop from scratch a wind turbine? And therefore, William starts to put together every piece of scrap material that he can get. He reads the book, he understands the process of building a wind turbine, and finally, he builds one. But it's not an easy journey. In fact, in one of the scenes, William is shown to have a conversation with his father, which is played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. And he tells his father, look, I need your bicycle because with the bicycle, I can complete my equipment and that would be essential for me to build the wind turbine. And his father says, I don't think that's such a great idea because that's the only mode of transport that the family has. And if you take that away, then there is nothing left with the family. But then William, being William, he is able to explain to his father that, look, you got to trust me. And this also talks about a beautiful relationship that William has with his father, where he convinces his father, who initially is very, very skeptical and, of course, a strict disciplinarian at that, because he wants William to do well. But unfortunately, he is chained by circumstances. So when William asks him for his bicycle, his father is very reluctant to give it. But then he trusts his son, and the trust is well paid off. So finally, with all the trust and all the equipment that William has access to, he builds the wind turbine. The wind turbine is able to generate electricity. It is therefore able to also get water for the entire village. And this water is then used to complete the agricultural activity in the entire region. And this story, therefore, is about ingenuity. It's about perseverance. It's about believing in what you think can be done. So some of the key takeaways that I would like to share, I won't spill the beans about what exactly do you see in the movie frame by frame. I think that's something which you need to discover. But there are 5 important takeaways that I would like to talk about. The first and foremost is the impact of education on a young mind, which is clearly shown in the fact that William, in spite of the fact that he does not even have the money to continue his education in school, he does not look at education merely from the fact that he needs to attend school to get education. He wants to attend school, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the financial power to pay his fees, and therefore he decides to do his own reading. And when he reads about this book called Using Energy in the library, that triggers an idea, which means education is not just in wearing uniforms and attending schools. That's one part of it. But education is much, much deeper than that. It builds curiosity. And I think if we can build curiosity in anything and everything that we do, we will keep learning. And that's what the movie talks about. It talks about the spark of education and what genuine education can do to the imagination of kids around the world. And with that education comes in another important aspect of the movie, which talks about ingenuity. Now, there is a problem that has stuck the entire village. Everyone is at the mercy of the government. Nobody wants to do anything about the problem. People think either the political power will do something for them, or the next political party will get something done for them, but there is nobody to help them. And they find themselves helpless. And amongst all this situation, it is only William who is acting as a problem solver. With his ingenuity, with his innovative spark, he builds something out of absolutely nothing. He builds the wind turbine out of scrap. And that talks about the fact that if you have a mind which is constantly looking for solving a problem rather than just sitting about the problem and cribbing about the problem, then a lot can be done, whether it is in organizations, in institutions, and even within families. The question is, are you a problem solver? Do you have the ingenuity to look at the problem and do something about it? Another element that is interestingly portrayed in the movie is the factor of trust. Now, William, when he starts on a journey to build the wind turbine, nobody's trusting him. But a bunch of kids who happen to be William's friends, they say, you know what, you are the brightest amongst us. We believe you can do something. And that gives a lot of confidence to William. And later, William is able to persuade his own father. And then the trust of the father in his own kid accentuates the whole process. And that becomes the turning point in William's journey. And of course, when other people join the bandwagon, it simply becomes a journey of a lifetime. So it all begins with the fact that somebody trusts young William to do it, and later other people also join in to the journey. But more importantly, it's a story about persistence and determination. So what you'll see time and again in the entire movie is that William is let down. Sometimes he's being thrown out of the school. Sometimes he has to safeguard the food grains in the house. Sometimes he has to get the food grains from the government, go down to his house. And in spite of that, there is not much left in the family. There is a wonderful scene where William also happens to suffer a personal loss when his beloved pet a dog dies because of the famine in the village. One of the scenes where you get choked up and teary-eyed when you watch it. But amongst all this, amongst all the trials and tribulations and the tension that goes around, William maintains his composure. He maintains his determination and perseverance. Never ever in the movie do you find that young William has lost hope. And that is such a beautiful piece of cinematic elegance that has been brought to witness and brought to life for the audience to witness. But above all, the story talks about the power of one individual, the power of one person to have hope in everything that is collapsing around you. And that is what makes this story such a powerful narration. Now, unfortunately, we live in an era where movies are considered to be great or bigger compared to the amount of box office earnings that they have. I'm not even sure about how much money this movie has earned, but the fact remains to be seen that the movie is not only just an entertainer, it's an educator. And that is what is different about this movie. It is a lot more deeper. It is a lot more emotional, sentimental in its appeal, but ultimately it leaves you with a lot of hope in your mind. But if you are not one of the movie buffs, you don't need to worry about that because you can also have access to the actual book which actually led to the making of this movie. So in this particular frame, you see the two authors who wrote this book called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. And that is how the movie also got its name, inspired from the book. The authors, William Kamkwamba, to the right of your screen, and you also have Brian Mealy, who co-authored the book along with William. And they took almost a year to complete the book, which just goes to show the amount of research, the amount of hard work that they have put in to write this book. And of course, had they not written this book, I don't think we would have had the opportunity of witnessing this movie. So, if you still have a question whether you should watch this movie, my answer is a big yes. If you haven't seen this movie, you must watch this movie. And if you have seen this movie, perhaps you can watch it from a different lens, from a different perspective. And it would be a wonderful idea to watch this movie along with your family or with a bunch of friends who love to watch movies. But I think most importantly, if you are an educator, if you are a team leader, you must watch this movie with your teams. Or perhaps this movie should be watched in schools and should be a compulsory watch for all kids because it's a real story. It talks about hope in the face of adversity. And I think opportunities like this should never be missed out. So that's precisely what this entire journey is all about. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind is a wonderful, wonderful piece of cinema that should not be missed at any cost. It's the story of how imagination and ingenuity can change a family, can change a villain, and not just the village, but it can change an entire nation. So if you have some time on your hands, perhaps it might be a good opportunity for you to deep dive into reality and pick some pearls of wisdom and hope for yourself. I hope this particular piece of information has been of some utility for all of you. And I look forward to come back to you with some other movie with some insightful learnings very, very soon. Till that time, please take care of yourself and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.